All right, let's dive into the story of a true pioneer, an artist who came straight out of the South Bronx, whose sound wouldn't just define a genre, it would explode and resonate across the entire world. This is the story of the one and only Willie Colón. You know, his longtime record label, Funnier Records, really hit the nail on the head with this one. For whole generations of Latinos, Willie Colón's music, well, it wasn't just background noise. No way. It was the actual soundtrack to your life, your good times, your struggles. It was a declaration of who you were and where you came from. And the craziest part, it all got started when he was just a kid. I mean, picture this, a Nuyorican teenager, just soaking up everything around him, the pulse of the streets, the poetry of just getting by, the intense hope of a community that was demanding to be heard. And he channeled all of it into a sound that was brand new. So that's the big question, isn't it? That's the journey we're going to take a look at. How does a self-proclaimed bad guy from the Bronx, this rebellious young talent, completely transform into a revered master, a true legend of music?
Okay, let's start at the beginning. His entry onto the scene was, well, it was nothing short of explosive. See, he wasn't just out there making music, he was building an entire persona, crafting a sound that was about to change the whole game.
And when I say he started young, I mean really young. This is gonna blow your mind. He got signed to Funnier Records at 15. 15. His mom literally had to sign the contract for him. Then bam, just 2 years later, at 17, his debut album El Malo takes off, selling over 300,000 copies and announcing that a major new force had arrived.
Now, to really get his impact, you gotta understand what he did with the trombone. Before Colón, you think of the trombone and it's kind of sweet, right? Smooth. But he comes along, inspired by guys like Barry Rogers, and just flips the script. He turned it into this raw, loud, aggressive lead voice. It was the perfect sound for the New Yorkan experience. Tough, gritty, and totally unapologetic. And of course, a sound that raw needed an image to match. El Malo, the bad guy, that wasn't just some nickname he picked up. Oh no, this was pure marketing genius. And the album covers? Legendary. Designed by Izzy Sanabria, they made Colón and his band look like wanted outlaws. It was the perfect visual for the music's rebellious vibe.
But here's the thing, Colón didn't build the sound all by himself.
You absolutely cannot talk about his rise to the top without talking about his most famous partner in crime, the legendary singer Hector Lavoe.
Man, these two were a perfect storm. A brilliant but totally volatile combination. You had Colón, the street-smart band leader, the architect of the sound, and then you had Lavoe, who was simply the voice, pure Puerto Rican soul. Together, it was absolute magic. But, and it's a big but, that magic got seriously tested by Lavoe's personal demons, which meant he was always late or missing shows, and it just wore the partnership down to the breaking point. And you can literally hear that tension in the music. Get this, their final album together was called Lo Mato. That translates to I'll kill him. I mean, talk about dark humor, right? But it was also them basically admitting to the world that things were falling apart. The album's a masterpiece for sure, but man, you can feel the weight of the end coming. And right there on that same album, you find this line, everything has its end, nothing lasts forever. They were turning all their personal turmoil into this incredible, timeless art. It was the end of an era, yeah. One of the most celebrated partnerships in salsa history. But for Colón, it also signaled the start of something new. So a new chapter begins, and it comes in the form of another legendary partnership. If the years with Lavoe were all about that raw street swagger, this next phase, well, things were about to get a whole lot more political. Enter Panamanian singer-songwriter Ruben Blades. And with Blades, man, the entire focus just shifted. The music got deeper, more topical, and this wasn't just them trying something different for fun. No, they were tapping into this rising social consciousness that was sweeping across Latin America. All of a sudden, they weren't singing about being gangsters. They were tackling the big stuff, identity, politics, what it was like living under military dictatorships. The absolute peak of this collaboration was their 1978 album, Siembra. And look, calling it a hit doesn't even begin to cover it. This thing was a cultural earthquake. It didn't just top the charts, it totally blew up the definition of what a salsa album could even be. Just look at that number. Over 3 million copies sold worldwide.
And to this day, it is still the best-selling salsa album of all time. It wasn't just an album, it was an absolute monster, a total phenomenon.
And the critics, they went just as crazy for it. This is the album that gave the world the epic story song Pedro Navaja. It's in the Latin Grammy Hall of Fame, it's on that 1001 Albums You Must Hear Before You Die list, and as if that wasn't enough, Rolling Stone recently named it the #1 greatest salsa album of all time. Not one of the greatest, the greatest. The end.
But Willie's story doesn't stop with the music, not even close. That social consciousness, that fire he found with Blades, he took it and carried it right into a whole new world. Public service. You know, Fania said something really smart about this. He understood that a good rhythm could get people dancing, sure, but he also knew it could move hearts, and that a powerful song could actually spark real change. And he took that idea and ran with it, straight into activism and politics. And this wasn't just some hobby for him. This was a serious, long-term commitment. I mean, he worked for multiple New York City mayors, he ran for US Congress, he ran for public advocate, he even became a deputy sheriff. The guy was always out there, being a voice for his community, fighting for causes well beyond the stage. So when you step back and you look at the whole picture, the musical game changer, the cultural icon, the activist, you really start to get it. You start to see exactly why he earned the title El Maestro, the master. The stats alone are just insane. Over 30 million albums sold, 11 Grammy nominations, 20 gold records. I mean, that alone puts him in the absolute god tier of Latin artists. But honestly, even those incredible numbers don't tell the full story. I think this quote from Bruce McIntosh at Kraft Recordings really nails it. His impact wasn't just about record sales. It's etched into the very soul of Latin culture. See? It's about being woven into the fabric of a people. He wasn't just a great musician, he was a visionary. He will forever be El Maestro. And that really leaves us with one big final thought, doesn't it? How can a single artist, one guy with a trombone and a powerful vision, manage to create a sound that ends up defining an entire era, a whole city, and a culture for generations? Well, in Willie Colón's case, the answer is right there in his story. A life lived with passion, a healthy dose of rebellion, and a deep, unbreakable connection to his people.